Hello, and today we were playing Hearthfire. My fork jumped as I twiddled it between my fingers, clicking against the porcelain plate. Tawak was already working on his second salmon fillet, the bear chowing down happily. Still can't believe you held me back. He stopped what he was doing, his cheeks bulging as a dribble of juice trickled from his lower lip. His expression screwed up as I held back a snicker. There was no way I could stay grumpy, not with Tawak making a goofy face like that. Little quirks like this sometimes made me forget he was some intimidating mountain man. He took a gulp, swallowing down the mouthful of food. At least you did not kill him. This would be counterproductive. Yeah. A toothy grin spread across my muscles. I spun a circle on the plate with my fork. Yes, I need him alive for the Wi-Fi password, though. It seemed that my joke was lost on Tawak. The bear stared at me, a blank look in his eyes. This did raise a particular question for me, considering the lack of electronics in the big bear's home. Have you ever used a computer before? I'm curious. The bear shook his head before shoveling some crisp potato slices into his salivating mouth. Well, that answers that. I'm not surprised, but at least I know his technical knowledge better. Still, that makes me wonder why Yuka seems so much savvier. Maybe it's his want to be part of the great outside world. Who knows? Perhaps. Tawak's rumbling voice pulled me out of my thoughts, his blunt fingernails droned on the table's edge as he watched me. He could tease me. His ears perking with surprise as I watched him sit bashfully in his seat. I have thought little beyond this cabin, or beyond these lands. There's much I do not know. Have you ever thought about leaving? I mean, not permanently, just like take a vacation and go on a trip. He contemplated my words, his chair squeaking softly as he leaned back. When Yuka and I were involved, we considered moving permanently. I have yet to think about it in recent times, but maybe I should. The seat scraping across the hardwood floor, so as he got up, his heavy footsteps thumped as he collected both of our plates. What's your hometown like? I'm blanking surprised at spreading his question. Well, it's not bad. We've got more seasonal weather. The campus is near the beach, so it doesn't get too nippy. The dishes clattered as he loaded them into the sink. The water turned off with a twist of the spigot, rustling over them as the bear went to work. Are there many people there? When I compare to Escort, there's a lot. Sometimes you can get through the halls without bumping into someone. The bear wumbled thoughtfully as he scrubbed, the muscles in his forearm flexing, rippling as he spun his bruises, his brush in circles. I have never been to a city before, nor have I seen the beach. There was a bout of silence, allowing the water to run over the porcelain plate before speaking. I would like to experience these things. Tawak cleared his throat, his mannerisms growing stiff as he shifted his weight from one foot to another. With you, perhaps. The vulnerability in his voice made my breath hitch, my tail shifting as a tip wrapped around my ankle. I mean, it's not really that exciting. The air isn't nearly as clean as Escoot's, and the streets are full of people. It's kind of overrated. I drummed my fingers on the table, feeling the heat radiating from my cheeks. The beach is lovely, though, especially if you find a secluded spot. I'm not sure how well you will handle the heat. This would be a problem. I am large. All that fluff, too. I'd be worried about you overheating in the sun. I said was to try. He finished the dishes, tossing the plates, and then passed into the nearby drying rack beside the sink. It was a heartwarming idea, and I dwelled on it for quite some time as we finished our meal. Tarek can't wander outside. He said he had to take care of a few things. Even though it was intermittent, clearing the snow was a constant task up north. Just about a racket coming from the shed, I had to assume he was working on his snowmobile or something. Sitting on the sofa and playing with my laptop wasn't nearly as captivating as I thought. A lack of an internet connection made things particularly dull. It turned out that Tarek wasn't tinkering. The sounds had ceased a while ago. Instead, he was sitting on his porch, the bear leaning back in his chair. He was working on that wooden figurine with his large claw hands. The knife he was using glinted in the yellow orange light of the sunset. His gaze was fixed on his work, failing to notice my approach. Small savings sailed into the air, carried away as they swirled in the wind. Even after all this time, I couldn't determine what he was creating. It was another four-legged creature for sure, but beyond that, I wasn't sure. Hey, I muttered softly, not wanting to startle the bear. Captivating golden orange eyes lifted from their work, swiveling in my direction. A small smile pulled across Tom's muzzle as he regarded me. Quest. He responded warmly, a rich bass bubbling up from his big chest. Are you ready for bed? After what I've been through, I'm ready to sleep for a few days. He chuckled quietly, his smile widening as he lowered his knife. I do not blame you. I feel the same. If you wish, I will not wake you as early. I nodded placidly, my eyes catching the figurine in his hand. Have you decided what you're making yet? I remember you saying you didn't know yet. I do. There was a long pause when I had expected to be filled with an answer, one that Tarek seemed keen on not to deliver. It was apparent that he could sense my wordless question, my narrowing gaze egging him on. Despite opening up, it seemed that Tarek was still keen on keeping things from me, for whatever reason. Fine, keep your secrets. My comment amused him, wobbling circle bubbling out of the bear. Patience. It will take form and time. Setting the knife down, he reached out a large hand, those thick fingers going for my hair. It didn't dodge the time, as much as I wanted to. Tom's fingers squeezed around my head, massaging my scalp with a gentleness that barely hit size. It was pleasant, especially with the way he worked behind my ears. I could feel my knees separately starting to wobble, my body swaying with the movements of his arm. I hope you do not mind what I say at the springs. His words were distant, the satisfying feeling on his fingers, massaging my scalp, muddying his words. What? I wasn't quite sure what he was talking about. So much was said at the springs that it seemed like a blur now. We have only just started. He hesitated, clearing his throat before speaking again. My personal relations today. Hope you do not think I was too forward with what I said to Yuka. The gummed up gears of my mind turned, twirling around until they eventually clicked into place. Oh, do you mean comparing me and you with Yuka and Philip? I could feel the knob through his arm as it shifted, the bear's head bobbing. I was not thinking correctly. I did not take you into consideration. Well, I leaned further into his hand, pushing up into his plush, padded palm. I didn't really mind it too much. A throaty rumble came from Tarek, a pleasant sound that made me grin like a doofus. I was unsure initially, but I'm glad you listened to my story. I have not talked about it to anyone. Finally speaking it out loud. I wasn't sure initially, but I'm glad you listened to my story. I have not talked about it to anyone. Finally speaking it out loud was. He seemed to search for the word, his lower jaw shifting thoughtfully. Cathartic. I took his hand in mine, gently squeezing my fingers as I could wrap around was barely total about 3. You've been out here for years, which is unsurprising. I think I would have lasted nearly as I don't think I would have lasted nearly as long. Perhaps, he muttered quietly, his voice a soft rumble. Other than Yuka, I have not connected with many others. Tarok's round ears lower, closed his eyes with a drawn-out exhale. It was always a struggle. Others did not accept me. They found me off-putting, obtuse. His fingers sifted through my hair, blunt nails, combing it appreciatively before tracing my bandages. I did not expect things to be this way between us. I found you in the snow, injured, bleeding. I did not know what to make of this then. I'm just glad he didn't leave me there. I probably would have died if he didn't accidentally stumble across me. But I'm glad I did, as selfish as this may sound. There was a stretch of silence between us. Tarek's hand slipped off my head, sliding tenderly down the side of my neck as his thumb brushed my cheek. I don't think it sounds all that selfish. The way the sunset cut his snow-white fur with dazzling golden orange hues filtered through the snow, filtered through his coat, giving him an otherworldly appearance. It was a lot like his eyes. I stared at them a lot, even back when we first met. But back then, I couldn't afford to have been so obvious. I could feel myself being tugged forward, guided by that large hand, my feet shuffling as I was lowered. Do you mind if I? He allowed his words to hang, our muscles only inches away from each other, feeling the rest of the question for him. And the mere nod was the only answer I could bring to bear in this quiet moment. The world seemed to slow to a stop as our lips pressed together, Tarek taking the lead. It was a lot less clumsy than the first one we had shared. Then again, I chalked that up to surprising him in the shower. He tilted his muzzle as he locked lips with me properly, the bear's fingers wrapped around behind my head, holding me firmly and affectionately. His tongue gently lashed at my lips as his thumb stroked my cheek. I could feel the deliberate affection he was pouring into this gesture as he turned me closer. His free hand wrapped around my waist, bringing me down till I straddled one of his large thighs. It was like sitting over a log, stretched with the sear-sized packed in those twiggy trunk-like limbs. I saw a squeak of a mouth slid down on me as my tongue pushed into my mouth, Tarek deepened our kiss. Being so close to him like this put our size difference on display. It also showed how extraordinary gentle he was with me. I've seen what he can do with those arms. He could snap me like a twig. It was exhilarating. He had lost track of time. Tarek had pulled me closer to his chest, allowing me to lean against him. A few small swings of saliva snapped, lips parting as we finally broke our kiss. My ears perked up, picking up on a peculiar noise from Tarek. Was he purring? It sounded like the rumble of an engine, like a snowmobile, only coming from the bear himself. If it were to come from anyone other than Tarek, I would have been a little intimidated. He seemed oblivious to the sound still out of it from our kiss. A few suffering exhales blew out of his large, padded nose. His stupor didn't last long, eventually picking up that I was staring at him. He pulled at his collar, outwardly coughing under his breath as his cheeks burned. It is getting late. Even though he spoke softly, his voice remained a rumbling bass. We should get some sleep. We have both had a long day. I squeezed myself tight as a time, my arms looping around as far around the other side wall as I could manage. It was selfish, but I didn't want things to end. Tarek seemed to sense this. His large hand slid tenderly down my back, stopping short of my tail. We stayed like this for minutes longer as light snow started to fall. It was a perfect backdrop, particularly how individual flakes caught the last rays of the sun. There was a lot of beauty in this place, deadly but still beautiful, when it finally deigned to give you respite. For Tarek, I'm sure he could appreciate this place more than I did. His thick fur and all his body provided him the means of surviving such a harsh climate. Meanwhile, I couldn't even swim in the rivers without freezing to death. One defining trait of my species, I couldn't even use it here. Use it here inside. Tarek's voice steered me out of my stupor, bringing me out of my thoughts and back to reality before it gets cold. He gently hoisted me from his leg, setting me back down on the porch. As much as I wanted to continue clinging to him, I was already starting to feel the fatigue of everything casted up to me. I lazily followed in Tarek's wake, the cozy heat of the crackling fire lapping at my short fur. Our little kiss was so distracting that I failed to notice the chill that had crept in. It didn't matter. Tarek's body heat was enough for the both of us. Tarek was already brushing his teeth, the big bear having sucked off his jacket and never got tired of seeing all that white fur. The way his lighter gray ran around his neck and shoulders like a mane was just captivating as the first time I laid eyes on it. And seeing he caught me staring, the bear's eyes locked with mine, he tilted his head, cocking it to one side as if asking me what I was looking at. I coughed awkwardly in my throat, and I moved next to him, our hips raised as I snatched my 2+. Busying myself, I gave a generous sliver of toothpaste over the end of the bristles. I happily managed to get my stuff. You never really appreciate the small things until they're gone. Like a clean mouth, the bear spat the toothpaste out of his mouth before wiping his lower lip with a brawny forearm. I understand what you mean. When I moved to this cabin, things were difficult. Necessities were hard to come by. The bear brushed his hands against the nearby tower, feeling the fabric between his digits. Head start over. Use what little I could. I'm thankful this cabin has not been disturbed since my grandparents' passing. How did you get the rest of your stuff? You said you traded with Hallie, right? I thought the end of my 2+ into my mom, swallowing idly the taste of mint overriding the lingering flavors from dinner. The big bear gave a curt nod in response to my question. I do. Before that, it was Yuka's father. He left her alongside, his mouth popping open as his tongue lolled between dense lower fangs. But this is a topic for later. His yawn was infectious, finding myself joining him as my hand raised in front of my mouth. Yeah, I feel like I'm about to pass out, still feeling pretty sore from everything. My laugh was tired as I followed the bear into the living room. The springs are suitable for entering. There are minerals in the water as well. I've used it many times. Yes, it's hard to avoid pulling a muscle out there, huh? Yes, overexertion is a problem. It is important to pace oneself. He gave me a wide smile as he passed me by. And to lift with your legs. I puffed up, hands immediately going to my hips as I stared the bear down. I was only trying to help. You have lived a sheltered life. It wasn't an accusation, simply a statement, a painfully accurate one. Do not worry, I will teach you more. You will survive. The Lord's hand dropped over my head, and I beady palm pushing over my eyes as he ruffled my hair. God, Katie, stop. Asked with a light-hearted laugh and said, push at his brawny forearm. I'm sorry. He said with a short laugh, his hand lifting from my head. It is hard not to. There was a long pause between us, Tarek looking as if he wanted to say something else, but decided against it at the last second. I'm going to sleep. Hope you have a good night. His speech was more robotic than I was used to. Well, okay. You couldn't deny that part of me also felt a little awkward. Many hours after 2 months, but part of me was hoping you might have opened up enough to let me sleep with him. It wasn't just for cuddles either. While Tom's sofa was comfy, sleeping on it seemed grinding difference to my back. Tomek had slipped into his bedroom, the door clicking closed behind him as I was left behind. He left the fire running. The flames crackled softly, giving the room a warm, cozy look. He's been trusting me with more tasks lately. I guess he figures I can put out a fire without his help. The kettle was heavier than I imagined, the sloshing water threatening to tip me over and onto my face. When I got to the exertion, I lifted it up, some liquid splattering onto the floor. Phew. At least I didn't manage to drop it. The smoke billowed up into the chimney, the fire wriggling out before the room was bathed in the darkness. It was hard to see, but I returned the kettle without incident before crawling back up to the surface. Snuggled under the blankets, the minutes ticked on, faint moonlight streaming through one of the windows. Just as I was about to start nodding off, I could hear the sound of movement. Footsteps thumped, a subtle shake emanating through the floor. The door to his bedroom popped open, the light within causing me to squint my tired eyes. In the door frame was Tyler, the undressed bear, sitting separately on his large feet as he watched me. "Forget something?" I asked, my voice mumbling as a yawn forced out of me. It had only felt like a few minutes, but sleep had stranglehold on me. "Wanted to ask if you..." Tyler's words caught in his throat, a light shade of pink starting to surface over his cheeks. "Do you wish to share a bed?" I did not mean to imply intercourse. The word came out awkwardly, like a pianist fumbling across the keys as he muttered it. "But if you wish, you can join me." I was already getting out of bed, pushing the heavy blankets back. The floor was already chilled, causing me to hiss under my breath as I danced on my feet. At least my back will thank me. I said with a tired laugh, shuffling my way to the big bear's bedroom. He moved out of the way, shifting his large frame to the side to let me in. One of those giant hands brushed over my back, gently guiding me towards his bed. He pulled the covers back like a true gentleman, allowing me in first. I couldn't say no to the inviting mattress that called, finding myself practically falling into it, bouncing over the springy surface. I could hear a soft chug of the bed squeaking as the bear got in. The foundation I was lying upon yielded to his bulk, and soon enough I found myself involuntarily rolling along the mattress right into his side. I could hear another short laugh bubble out of him, his arm raising awkwardly as I peeled myself from his midsection. "You are adorable." His voice was hesitant, as if he was unsure if it was appropriate to call another man that. It usually annoyed me when people called me cute. Not that I could help it, considering my species, but it was nice coming from him at least. "Well, I'm not exactly the only one." My suave tone caught him off guard, Tyler staring at me blankly. "I am cute." He brought a single giant finger up to his face. Even in the dim light of the window, I didn't miss that he was pointing at the scarred side of his muscle. "I do not understand." "You don't?" He gestured to himself, those wide hands waving at his generously sized proportions. "I am Lord's." He said the statement with absolute finality, as if it was self-explanatory. "That doesn't make you unattractive. Plenty of people like bigger guys, Tomek." "I know I do." To prove it to him, I turned, spooning around his round middle as I nuzzled my face into his broad torso. My fingers dove into the denser fur adorning his chest, massaging it slowly. My cough got caught in his throat, the bashful bear looking away from me as he scratched at his cheek. "Even if that, so I am not beautiful. Yeah? Who cares?" I asked, my voice a sleepy mumble as my index finger traced a slow circle around Torrance middle. A brown fur desert burst through the field of white, gently disturbing it as it left a small wake behind. He seemed to contemplate my quest as if it were the first time his assumption had been challenged. I suppose that no one has. The bear mumbled under his breath, his words slow and contemplative. I could only assume. He turned to look at me, his eyes barely illuminated in the dark. Even then I could still make out those captivating orange hues. As a polar bear, my appearance is intimidating. A scar on my face does not help. I propped myself on an elbow, getting a better eye-to-eye angle with the bear. Are you kidding? Do you have any idea how much the pill kills you? It does. His finger trailed over his scar, tracing it down his lip tentatively. I will take your word for it. I mean, I was willing to kiss you, right? His hesitance made the single word all the more awkward. Perhaps, to repay me. You idiot. He bolted my settling statement. However, it didn't stop me from tugging my muzzle under his chin. I appreciate what you've done for me, but that's not why. You're sweet, and I greatly care about you. I could feel the polar bear starting to warm up, his cheeks sharply flushing. Now, a long yawn forced my mouth open wide before I could finish speaking. Can we get some sleep? Yes. My apologies. He lowered his arm back down, the burly limb engulfing me. I didn't fail to notice how it curled around me, pressing me gently against his side. Do you? He cleared his throat, sounding as if it had gone dry. Would you like to spoon? Honestly, I wasn't as surprised as I thought I would have been to hear that. The vulnerability in his voice was adorable, though, and made me wonder just how much he had done with Yuka. How far did their relationship go? Did they even cuddle? Still. Yeah, well, it seemed I caught Tarek by surprise, his ears going up. He hesitated, almost as if he wasn't sure if he was supposed to follow my command. A few gentle nudges changed his mind, however. He slowly rolled the bed, squeaking and groaning as he shifted and tilted on his side. My nose pushed through the mane of darker fur running down his meaty back, nuzzling into the fuzzy carpet. I don't think I ever see a bigger person in all my life being so close to him and pressed up like this, so how small was compared. Thoughts about him rolling over and squishing me into the middle of the night flashed through my mind, but I did my best to suppress him. Is this acceptable? Yeah, it's great. Leaning in, I kissed the middle of that broad back. Good night, Ton. I could hear him rumbling a slight wiggle of his tail against my lower stomach. Good night, Chris. I told you not to eat so fast. My stomach felt fit to burst, a soft moan rocking past my lips. But pancakes. Come outside, shaking his head dismissively as if dealing with an unruly child. You expect to put bell-sized portions on my plate and for me to not eat them. The unsigned scarf, running a washcloth along his frying pan. That does not mean you should not show restraint. If you know your limits, why go beyond them? Because pancakes. Besides, shaking his head. Your motivations are beyond me. Hey, I'm not the only one who overeats. I pointed an accusatory finger toward the jutting belly above the bear's belt. Yes, but I do not make myself sick. He scoffed, a smirk forming over his mouth as he regarded me. Besides, I will finish eating what you are not. The dishes clattered as the bear finished up what he was doing, even though I was contending with my distended stomach. watching him move around shirtless was still a treat. I must go check the traps. He announced out of the blue, having headed to the nearby hook where he had his shirt and jacket slung. Again? He asked curiously, my head tilting. The summer ones, right? Correct. You can come along if you wish. I thought about it for a while, my whiskers shifting back and forth. Well, I really need to go to town. I got my stitches that need to come out. That and I gotta try to use Yuka's internet connection. I laughed awkwardly, rubbing the back of my head. The sooner the better, I think. I mean, if I don't get word back, I could get kicked out of college. Plus, my parents could have hired search parties or a private detective to find me. He kept his head tilting curiously. I thought you said your parents do not care about you. Oh, they only superficially care. If I were to go missing, they would make a big show out of trying to find me. When the Lord I'm found, I'd never hear the end of it when we're in private. That doesn't sound healthy. It isn't. They put on a good face for everyone else, then take it off when they think they're alone. He lets out a low rumble, nodding slowly. Collect your things. We will go to the river after. I will haul my cats and we will go to the town together. Going to sell your cats again? I am low on funds. He admitted awkwardly, almost painfully, as he averted his gaze. Haley told me as much. My payment for gasoline was insufficient. So you keep some for yourself? The last thing I wanted to do was starve out here, especially with how big Thomas' appetite is. Do not worry, I will stockpile frozen fish. You will not go hungry. He flashed me a confident smile. I can always fish us more. I know I'm an honor, but I feel like I'm going to be sick of fish before I leave. Go, gather the things. I will prepare for our journey. Alright. He gave me one last smile before heading out, clapping the door behind him as the silence in the cabin enveloped me. It hadn't taken long to gather my laptop and charging cables into the bag Thomas gave me, double checking to ensure my phone was in my pocket. I hesitated at the door, having tugged on my jacket and kicked on my boots. Fingers twisted along the knob as I lost myself in thought, staring at the reflective brass bulb. With the prospect of being able to use the internet, I guess that meant I wouldn't be around for much longer. My stomach sank. It's too early to be thinking about this. I muttered to myself, my ears perked as I picked up on an engine starting. I'm not even sure how I'm going to leave. I could be stuck here for months. I thumbed at the knob, making it click and jump as it quietly rattled in its housing. Star will know. I might have to bum a job off Hallie and try to pay for a new car. My stomach lurched as my mind invariably shifted to another possibility, contacting my parents. Sure, they might wire me some money or send some help, but I would never hear the end of it. As far as they were concerned, I didn't want them to know I left campus in the first place. I'm already enough of an embarrassment as it is. Well, no use thinking about it now. I have an appointment to get to. Fishing was easy enough. The water was clear and the traps were full of wiggling salmon. Like last time, Tarek pulled the fish's defying feet of wading across the entire river to gather his catch. The Vincent on the back of the snowmobile slosh as it stopped just outside Hallie's shop. Shorting the fish back at the river was easy enough. I was getting better at it, something that delighted Tarek. I noticed he was casting glimpses of me while I worked, eyes roving openly over me. It had new context between us both. It had new context between us now. I found myself giggling stupidly. I will sell my cats. Tarek spoke, his rubbing bass shaking being out of my thoughts as the snowmobile wobbled with his weight. The bear helped me down as he disembarked, his large hand engulfing me. I will see you later, yes. He surprised me as he leaned down, his other hand gently cupping the small of my back to bring me forward, our lips pressed together as he gave me a chest kiss. My heart fluttered, cheeks burning, as he held it for a full second before pulling back. Yeah. He smiled truthfully, using that hand on my hip to gently turn me around before giving a playful puss. I saw him a playfully critical look before taking off down the street, but not before stopping to watch him lift those containers, seeing him work and move that large body, the way his sleeves would stretch was something to behold. Honestly, with enough weight, I wouldn't be surprised if they burst. The front buttons of his shirt were barely holding on to begin with. I coughed, cheeks flushing as I realized I was opening ugly him. Content with the eye candy, I quickly made my way down the road, heading to the familiar clinic. The familiar scent of clean solution hit my nose. I had to fight to keep from sneezing, and the insides of my sinuses started to burn. It was quiet. The hum of a heater was running somewhere behind one of the walls. He probably didn't hear the bells that, or he's busy with another patient. Speaking of bells, a glint near the front desk caught the corner of my eye. I bit my lower lip, chewing on it as I stared at the noise-inducing possibilities. Not going to lie to myself, it's pretty tilting to just shuffle over there and I could hear footsteps and a pair of voices down the hall. Speaking of bells, a glint near the front desk caught the corner of my eye. I bit my lower lip, chewing on it as I stared at the noise-inducing possibilities. Not going to lie to myself, it's pretty tempting to just shuffle over there and I could hear footsteps and a pair of voices down the hall. One was Philip's, but the other, I couldn't precisely place it. It sounded older, almost a creaking laugh following muffled words. I saw a flash of white as Philip came around the corner in his usual lab coat, gesturing to the lobby for his companion. As Fox came around the corner, a kind smile spread across his muzzle. He wasn't moving particularly fast, his arms tucked behind him, hands clasped over the small of his back. I'm afraid it would be a while until I can restock your rheumatoid arthritis medication. In the meantime, try to avoid strenuous or repetitive activities. Warm soaps would work well. This spring near town, I'm sure a dip will do you good. I'll survive for a little while yet. It's not like creaky bones are going to kill me. The old fox laughed, a tittering sound as his bushy tail flipped behind him. Besides, disappointing my future son-in-law would be a saying. Wouldn't do to miss my boy's wedding, eh? Philip seized up. The cat's eyes were wide as his tail went straight up. When it's speechless, he coughed, a slurry of word sounds tumbling out of him. Well, that's kind of you to say. I've never seen him so flustered before. It was adorable seeing that calm and collected doctor on the flustered defensive. Relax, my boy. I won't be ringing wedding bells just yet. Philip's expression screwed up, the cat letting out a muddled sound. His whiskers looked frazzled, as if the short interaction had deprived him a day's worth of sleep in only seconds. Well, if I didn't know about the two of them being an item before, I do now. The old fox's attention turned to me, his smile inquisitive. His pointed ears swiveled up as he noticed they weren't the only ones in the room. You must be the newcomer that I've heard about. My name is Panic. Yeah, I guess that's me. My words were stilted, mainly when the shorter fox came shuffling onto me. He looked up at me, a sharpness in those eyes that barely his age. At least Philip seemed grateful for the reprieve, the cat letting out an almost imperceptible sigh in the background as he rubbed between his eyes. Word travels around fast. Yeah, I've noticed. He chuckled quietly, his bushy tail giving a friendly flick. It's a small town for you. A secret only lasts a second. No kidding. Just about everyone is talking about me. I wasn't really used to all this attention. Honestly, I mostly floated in the background unnoticed by everyone. Now I seem to be on everyone's radar. This person softened. I know this might be out of line since we only just met, but how's Tarek doing? That was an off-the-wall question. I think he's doing fine. I've been living out in his cabin for a short time now. He seemed relieved, the old Vulpine exhaling as he nodded slowly. That's very good to hear. I haven't kept many tales from the boy since I retired. I asked quizzically, head turning as I regarded the sort of fox. I used to own the trade shop in town. Is the boy taking care of himself, eating right? He sounded like a father who hadn't touched his son in years. There was concern in his eye, in his voice, and the look he gave me grabbed my heartstrings only to yank hard. But, well, I don't think he's eating not enough. The old fox gave me a look, head simply tilting to one side as if asking me to continue. I think what he's trying to imply is that Talbot could stand to start a diet. Don't worry, as his physician, I can attest that he's in excellent health. I thought you told me you were having problems getting him in here, like hurting a cat. That's how you put it? Philip coughed, adopting that flustered look again as he fiddled with his clipboard. Well, you can thank Mr. Smell. Without his help, I'm not sure I would have been able to capture him. Images of Philip chasing Tarek around with a net crossed my mind. I had to keep myself from sparking, pushing down the snare that threatened to bubble out of me. That sounds like the boy I remembered. The fox chuckled, a warm sound that struck a chord inside me. He reminded me a lot of my grandfather, or from what I could recall he had died when I was young, so I only had precious few memories of him. He had that same comforting smile and sort of stature which brought much nostalgia. Wait, so you're alright with your son dating another guy? I paused, waving an awkward figure between the sort of fox and the doctor, which gave me a subtle yet mortified look. Hawk's smile widened as his eyes closed, a marble fox chuckling quietly. Yes, I'm aware. I don't mind who my son loves as long as they care for him in return. The nearby leopard turned a light shade pink, his cheeks lighting up as he held his clipboard to his chest. He looked like he wanted to say something but could not form the words. Instead, he settled for remaining silent as his bushy tail twists and twists. I know I'm probing where I shouldn't, but then why did Thomas' father do what he did? Ears went up as the two of them exchanged looks. So he told you, Yeah. To be honest, it hurt to recall it. Thomas' dad hit him and threw him out of his life. I know I didn't harbor much love for my parents, but I could barely fathom them doing that to me. Maybe just owe me if I embarrassed them too badly, but I don't think they'd throw me out into the literal cold. The fox let out a long sigh. He visibly sagged, almost looking like he exhaled a few years out of himself in the process. I don't believe that Quack is a bad person. How can you say that? My voice raised, surprising even myself. A defensive fire burned in my chest, forcing the words out of me. Perhaps you hurt Tarek. He could have died out in the snow after all of that. Panda shook his head slowly. I don't mean to be rude, my boy, but this doesn't involve you. My stomach sank as his tone sharpened. My hand pushed deep into my pockets as my face flushed and deadness rolling. I found that I had crushed his muzzle, eased into a soft smile as he continued speaking. But then you've only been given part of the picture, hey? It was true. I was just an outsider here and had only heard Tarek's side of the story. I could feel a whole pull in myself, the angry air being relaxed as I swayed back down. Now don't deflate me just yet, he said with a gentle chuckle. Tarek hasn't let anyone into his life in years. The fact that he's talking to you is a blessing, if you ask me. Perhaps if you can help him. He mused, brushing his mustache between index finger and thumb in thought. His father wasn't always this way. The father said, his voice low, almost mournful, as he continued. I've known Korak since I was young. We were childhood friends. His smile turned to a bittersweet one. The same returning ever since he was a little snowball. Snowball, that's certainly a term. Korak was always a man of tradition. He was proud, strong, and willing to do whatever it took to fulfill his obligations as a chieftain. I admire that internal fortitude of the man, the passion for duty and the traditions of his people. Such values aren't without their downsides, my boy. They made him rigid, unbending. A father cannot be this way. They must learn to bend with life and the changes a child brings. And guessing that he didn't, the father's muzzle twitched, making his bristly mustache switch left and right in thought. He tried. It was against his nature, but he tried. That had taken me aback. As far as I knew, my parents had never really tried. They expected everything to fall in their lap and work out at first blush, including their children. The loss of his wife changed him. His words were weighty, almost grim. He had a far-off look in his eyes as he spoke. For all his virtues, a man cast shadows, my boy, but they grew. Every day until I could no longer see the man I once knew. He shook his hand as if clearing the clouds from his mind. It is shameful for a father to forsake his son for a town. Towns can be rebuilt. They can be moved. There will always be towns. Fox paused, a thumb fiddling with a button on his vest. Destroy a relationship with your boy? That's something that can't be fixed. These words weighed heavily. I couldn't find any fitting words to respond with. Instead, I was forced to exist in the heavy mire of the ensuing silence. I'm familiar enough with him to recognize his regret for what he did that day, but it may not be enough. The sound of the door opening caught my attention, pulling me out of the summer moment. You could brush some snow off his shoulders, the wolf grunting as he kicked his boots off at the front entrance. Now, the wolf stopped just short of me, his gaze shriveling down. Oh, hey, it's you again. He stumbled across his nose as he dismissively inhaled. Chase right? My expression instantly screwed up. How could he already forget my name or get it that egregiously wrong? Do I look like I chased you? I asked, a deadness burning in my voice as I glared at him. God, I know I'm generic, but come on, my name isn't that hard to remember. Dismiss with you, Chris. Now, Pernell had chimed in, the older fox letting out an amused laugh. Be nice, I guess, boy. He's already been through enough. He just shuffled awkwardly on his feet, his tail tucked between the bubble's both legs. Yeah, sorry. He cleared his throat awkwardly. Can we go now? Are we still getting together for our usual? My daughter interrupted before they could leave, his tough tail swishing expectantly behind him. Something about his words tipped me off, a subtlety to them. Subtlety that was wholly ruined by Yuka's flustered expression. Yeah, why wouldn't we? Punter tilted under his breath in amusement. I remember the game nights with your mother. The way he spoke oozed with nostalgia. Dad! The wolf snapped as he tugged on his ears. If he wasn't blushing before, he certainly was now. It wasn't anything scandalous, my boy. He was full on laughing now, cheeks dimpling. Just Yahtzee and some Scrabble, when we felt particularly rambunctious. I could swear I heard an "Oh my God" mutter under Yuka's breath. The wolf had turned beet red as he hid his face under his hand. Thank you for the services, Doctor. Philip swung his arm in front of him before taking an elegant bow. The two stepped out, Yuka holding the door open for his adopted father as they vanished around the corner. The sound of Philip clearing his throat caught my attention, turning my head back to him. He looked unsettled, his usual smile frazzled along the edges of his whiskers displayed. My apologies for that little display, Mrs. Smith. I don't usually discuss more intimate matters in front of patients. His thumb tapped idly in front of his clipboard. You can call me Chris, I don't mind. The cat contemplated my office, those whiskers shriveling. I suppose it is a small town. The smile was formed over his face, a little less clinical than I was used to. All right then, Chris. His voice was warmer than I was used to, as if testing out my name. I assume you were here to have your stitches removed. Yeah, I mean, you're the one who told me to sew up. I said with an awkward laugh, fingers brushing under my sleeve as I played with my wrist. I suppose I did. Haven't launched yourself off any more cliffs since we last talked. His tone was light and playful, making me swing into my coat. No, I've been avoiding them. I'm glad to hear it. How are your bruises healing? They're feeling better. I took a soak in the hot springs and slept in a soft bed. Proper back support is vital for a good night's sleep, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you how important that is for the healing process. Well, if it's any consolation, I've gotten better sleep here than the last few months back home. The leopard paused, his fingers drumming along the edge of his clipboard. Psychological distress. You'll have to forgive me if I'm prying since we're on a first-name basis now. You can say that. He closed his eyes, letting out a thoughtful rumble. You did say you were attending university. I know that in my youth in my youth it was a trying time for me as well. There were several times that I nearly gave up. The stress almost became too much. He chuckled a mirthless sound. I can't count how often I had to run to the laboratory to spell my breakfast or lunch. I wasn't kidding when I told you that coffee is a student's best friend. I'm not sure I like how that sounds after what you just told me. Oh, that feeling's correct. The drumming on his pad grew louder as his nails rapped against the wood. It's not a particularly proud time of my life. Plenty of my classmates had dropped out. Had turned not just to excess coffee drinking, but stimulants to make it by. He reached out a hand, those padded fingers wrapping around my shoulder, reassuringly squeezing it. It's a tumultuous time in a young man's life. So many new experiences and entire world opening up for them. Sometimes expectations can become too much. Focus on what's in front of you whenever things feel overwhelming. I guess it wasn't my studies going wrong. It was everything else, I think. Most of my family and my ex-boyfriend. Well, that's an age-old problem. He chuckled softly to himself, his bushy tail swaying. Speaking of resolving problems, why don't we step into my parlor? He gestured elegantly behind him to the room in the back. Aren't we already in your parlor? Let's figure speech, Chris. I promise that getting your stitches out won't hurt. It's gonna feel weird, isn't it? That one got a good laugh from him, the doctor smiled like wine. Oh, very. But it'll feel better once you get it out, and you don't have to keep dressing your wound. I'm sure you're tired of dealing with gays. Well, alright, either way. A shudder went up my spine. He wasn't kidding when he said it would be weird. It felt like a warm slithered out of my head. At least I don't look too bad. I muttered softly, remembering the image in the hand mirror he showed me. The scar was prominent, reaching through my hairline, creating a subtle split of scarlet flesh. It wasn't too bad, nothing that I couldn't cover up with a bit of styling. Part of me was a little proud of it. I was a little hesitant at first, but scars can be kind of hot. A little awkward for me, though. I'm not exactly a tough guy. At least it was warm in the cafe. The heated air caressed me, pushing the chill out of my fur. He was behind his bar, the wolf filling of what looked like a coffee grinder. His ear perked at the sound of the door, turning his head over his shoulder to spot me. Oh, hey. He grunted in my direction dismissively before returning to what he was doing. Hey, I'm here to use the internet and What? I can't hear you. It was his voice to speak over the blasting noise of the machine. Beams turned and the canister slamming into the transparent plastic as they were grounded up. As said, I'm here to use the internet. A yell coming around the edges of my mouth. What? His voice was grating, a yell from over the blender. The internet. I settled back, trying to match its volume. The what? The noise was grating, the squeaking rear of the machine, gobbling up any semblance of conversation between us. I sighed, heading to the bar before dropping myself down and tossing my bag onto the countertop. That's the way out. That's the way out. The wolf finished what he was doing and strolled over, pointing a finger at my laptop as I cracked it open. You're gonna need a password. And it's as much of a lifeline as he was at his antics were thinning my patience. Part of me wondered if he intentionally blared his beans just to mess with me. I'll type in. I scooted defensively, pulling my laptop closer to me across the bar top. Can't you just tell me where it is? The expression screwed up, the canine growing defensive. It's complicated. I'm sitting right here. Why is it so hard to tell me so I can enter it? Ugh. He mumbled something unintelligible, my ears straining to hear as they swiveled forward. What? You're gonna need to speak up. I think your blender gave me hearing damage. It's not a blender. It's a grinder. Unless grinder is a password, this isn't helping. The wolf looked like he was about to pop. I could swear I saw a vein surfacing over his forehead. Cat, Daddy. As his pressing blankets, I heard the strangled sound coming out of him. Why not buy me again? See at Daddy 77. It's a cat with a capital C and an @ sign for the last two letters. His arms crossed tightly over his chest, looking like he was about to squeeze the air out of himself. Is he being serious right now? That's his password? My fingers massaged my forehead, head going light from the information unceremoniously dumped in my lap. I should have let him enter it in the first place. And the numbers? Fuck's sake, they're just numbers. My fingers reluctantly moved across the keyboard, tapping the unconventional password. It worked. This wasn't like the tenuous connection on the mountainside. I finally had access to the outside world. My breath hitched, fingers hesitating over the trackpad. It only hit me where I might find it if I moved forward, what messages would be awaiting me. The sound chat notifications hit my ears, and new notifications were storing up on the screen. A few clicks pulled up the window. A few of my online friends seemed to be checking up on me. Nothing unusual. It seemed my sister had also dusted off her account and was sending me a message. The preview looked like it was asking me when I was supposed to leave and if she got the date wrong. The top of the recent pile was from Daryl. It was the same things he had sent me in his text. He was worried sick. Several messages asking where I was, if it was something that he did. At one point, as I scrolled, it sounded like he thought I might have slunk off to commit suicide somewhere. My stomach sagged like a rock and an easy, queasy feeling settling in the bottom of it. Another notification flash popped up from my email. It was sent just a few days ago by the administration of my college. Notice of delinquency. It hasn't been that long, has it? Before I could dwell on it for long, another sound caught my attention. A voice call? Wait, a video call? It was from Daryl. He must have seen me log in, his own status showing up as online. It makes sense. He was usually on around this time, somewhere between the last of his classes and football practice. The noise rattled from my laptop to the point that Yuka was starting to give me a confused look. Taking a chance, I clicked the answer button. Through the crackling static, A wide-eyed lion greeted me from the other end, his jaw slightly slacked. Chris? The other was crunchy, his voice distorted, yet I could still tell it was his. Hi. My voice was dry, catching in my throat as I tried to speak. Holy shit, there you are. He ran fingers through his mane, pushing up through his hairline. Are you okay, dude? I've been trying to get a hold of you. You haven't answered. Nobody knows where you ran off to. Yeah, It was difficult to talk to him. The connection had a noticeable delay. Haven't been doing great. Shit. He bawled apprehensively, color draining from his face. You didn't try to do anything to yourself, right? I could tell that he was tiptoeing around the actual question, whether it was because he had trouble saying it or scared I might have tried to hurt myself. I couldn't tell. No, well, not on purpose. Not on purpose. What does that mean, dude? I've seen him scared, but I've never seen him this distressed. He looked like he was about to pull a chunk out of his mane, fingers flexing as he tugged. Just tell me you're okay, alright? Yeah, I'm fine now. I'm kinda trapped. Where? I'll come get you. My stomach sank, my mouth turning to cotton as I tried to think of some explanation. I couldn't, and not for want of trying. I got in my car and I drove. Where? He was leaning closer to the camera, as if I didn't know better, I assumed he would dive into his truck the second I told him. I'm in Canada, a town called Iska. This person slapped, his brows doing a befuddled dance. He opened his mouth, looked as if he was about to ask me why, but he decided against it, and as he shook his head. Did I do this? Part of me wanted to lean in and reassure him, telling him it wasn't his fault, but that was a lie. There were a lot of things. Fuck. He hissed under his breath at himself. I'm such a fucking dumbass. I said I paid more attention. I didn't want to, like, get in your face after we broke up. I still care about you, dude. I know we're not dating, but I wanted to give you some space so you could think about shit. I didn't know you'd drive off somewhere without saying anything. I was going to visit my sister. His hand pulled away from his face in surprise. The one in Alaska. I could hear the disbelief in his voice as he spoke. Yeah. His mic picked up on a clattering keyboard and a few echoing clicks in the background. It's good, right? Shit, that town's fucking far north. What the hell were you thinking, driving out there? Why didn't you take a flight? His accusatory tone made my stomach lurch, my sore ears flattening to my head. I don't have the money for a round trip like that, and besides, you know how bad I am with flying. I cleared my throat, trying to change the topic. Do my parents know I'm gone? Daryl shook his head. No, they would have blown up my phone if they did. When I realized you were missing, I called and asked them if you'd be home. When they told me no, I knew something was up. I made an excuse to keep them from freaking out. Saving grace, I guess. They're pretty easy to convince. Yeah, it didn't take much. I'm just glad you're safe, dude. I was terrified. There it was, the smile I was familiar with. I had almost forgotten how protective he could be over me, even when we were just friends. He squinted, looking closer at the screen, dipping a little below the camera lens's view. What's up with your hairline? It's hard to see. The color's kind of fucked. Uh-huh. His eyes twisted upwards, even though I couldn't hope to see what was above. Or nothing. Dude, don't lie. It looks like you got a scar. What the heck? I might have hit my head when I crashed. Crashed? I thought you were, like, staying there as a stop. You went out? Yeah, the car is totaled. It hurt admitting it, but I had no choice. Not if I wanted to get out of here. Shit. Does anyone else know? No, you're the first person I talked to. Daryl rubbed his face, hands working over it before dropping back down onto his lap. He looked exhausted. I couldn't blame him. I can come get you. It'll be a few days though. I can't make a trip that big with the coast bleeding down my neck. Are you gonna be okay? Like, screw it. I can come to get you right now if you're not safe. No, I've been staying with someone here, a local. He found me in the snow after I crashed. For a moment I thought he would press me for details of life, remaining silent as his jawline shifted. Besides, the storm going on. Something about the weather up here is crazy. If you come to Iska, you end up as stuck as I am. I'll figure something out. I'll let you know when, okay? Maybe the snow will let up soon. I'll be around, dude. I got my phone and stuff, so if you scoop me a message, I'll be there. Despite all, he smiled a little. I can make out that much through the spotty connection. Glad you're okay. I want interference for you. Let the administration know you need time. Thanks, Daryl. Always, man. He gave me a wave, and I found myself returning a small smile of my own forming. I closed my laptop with a short sigh. That was more exhausting than I would have expected. To my surprise, a mug of coffee slid in my direction of porcelain, rattling softly over the old wooden countertop. Here. He kept his gaze averted as he spoke. You look like you could use it. It's for you. Just take it. The statement left me in abject shock. I wasn't sure what sparked his generosity, but I wasn't about to turn down a free coffee. Was that an ex of yours? My brows clenched from the blunt, personal question. It's none of your business. He scoffed. Hip leaning against the backside of his countertop. Yeah? Feels fair with how you bulldoze into my own past. I opened my mouth, trying to think of a rebuttal, but I couldn't. I took an angry drag of my coffee, trying to ignore the smug smile that formed on Yuga's muzzle. Sounds like you were doing what I did. I tilted my head confused and giving him a look. Leaving home because of a bad breakup and shit. Sounds like you were doing something similar. Well, I didn't plan on leaving forever. I just need a break. From that guy in your call? I blew a sharp exhale from my padded nose as I thumped the mug of coffee onto the counter. Yeah, okay, you win. I went through a silly breakup. I tried to get our relationship to work, but couldn't. Happy? He shrugged his shoulders non-conventionally. Nah, it ain't funny when it doesn't involve you falling off or something, dick. My statement was more playful than pissed as I moved my eyes and took another deep drink. At least your scar doesn't look like shit. Yeah, your boyfriend did a good job. I slightly emphasized the word, my grin widening as the wolf grew visibly flustered. I fucking swear, you can't keep anything private in this town. Is it supposed to be a secret? I didn't say that. He snapped, crossing his arms over his chest as he pouted. I just don't like my set being a public spectacle. But I guess if you didn't break your face in the first place, I wouldn't have talked to Tarrak, so thanks for that. Well, I'm glad that working out has improved your social life. I took another drag of the coffee, tilted the mug up as I closed my eyes, allowing the warmth to trickle down to my core. Any idea how you're gonna get home? His tone still was surprising enough to make me look up from the edge of my mug. I'm guessing that's why you were talking to that guy? I sit on my ball stool, feeling guilt pulling inside my stomach, making the coffee's warmth uncomfortable. That's not the only reason. I don't want to sound like I'm just coming to him for a favor. More than a favor, if you ask me. You live all the way in Washington, right? How did... Yeah, Philip tells me more than he should. You're the latest and greatest thing to go rolling through his clinic. He gave me a critical look, canting his head back. What? Do you think shit happens here? Besides, me moving back and setting up shop, the store has been the only exciting thing happening in this frozen backwater. Except for you. He sit with a smirk, crossing his arms over his chest. All eyes are on the weird little archer falling off cliffs. One time. I said with a sharp, frustrated exhale. He shrugged indifferently as he returned to his coffee grounds, pulling them from the grinder and pulling them into an open bag. You want some? He slid the sealed container in my direction for emphasis. Not like I exactly have a coffee machine to brew it with. The corner of his mouth twitched thoughtfully. And come back later. I'll hook you up with one. Really? That was a surprise, but I wasn't about to turn it down, not when free coffee was involved. I gotta figure out where our staff sit first. He said with an apathetic shrug, returning to what he was doing with a flick of his fluffy tail. I could hear the sound of winds kicking up outside the southern dip, and sunlight clued me into something brewing. Even you could stop what he was doing, head shriveling towards his front door. My stomach sank as I realized what was happening. Winds whipped, turning freezing white through the streets, disturbing the layer of snow. Shit. The wolf muttered under his breath, ears pinning back. Wait, Tarmac is still out there. The bar store squeaked as I hopped off my legs moving on their own accord. Before I could get to the door, a hand clasped around my waist, tugging me back. Hey, are you stupid? You can't go out there. But you'll freeze. It's just down the road, maybe. Calm down. It said sharply, a disgruntled exhale following. He's going to be okay. He's a polar bear. He can handle some snow. I guess. You really want to worry him by wandering around in the snow? No. He finally let go of my wrist. The sudden release nearly sending me stumbled before I whirled at it. He was right. I didn't really have much choice. Even if I did find him, we couldn't head back into the middle of this roaring snowstorm. A soft sigh blew out of me as I watched the whirling maelstrom outside the window, my hands stuffing deep into my pockets. No choice but to wait. It continued. Thanks so much for reading so far. Hearthfire is a passion project between a small group of friends. We couldn't get anywhere without an audience. You can find more information about Hearthfire on our Twitter page. Keep an eye on it for updates and changes. If you want to support the project, feel free to check out our Patreon page. Patrons get access to new builds a month ahead of time. One thing about the MC quest, I kind of like him and don't like him at the same time. I like him in the sense that he is very grateful towards Tarmac for what he's doing for him and letting him stay in his home and sheltering and feeding him. On the other hand, it seems like he just has a habit of being reckless or just talk more about a situation than he really should, and like he knows more about the issue than the people themselves do. Like when that old man he met at the doctor's office said that Thomas' father was a good man, and Chris Flout told him, well, how can you say that? And then the old man tells him bluntly that this situation doesn't involve you, and that I thought to myself, well, I'm sure the old man knows way more about Thomas' father than you do. Some 20-year-old guy who only been in this town for a handful of days or weeks. I'm sure the old man knows way more about Thomas' father than you do. Plus there's two sides to every story, like the old man said. But apparently, according to the old man, whose name is Ponuk, he said that his father was very dedicated to the tribe and to the village. He put duty above just about everything else, and he tried to change it to a more softer image, but eventually but ultimately his duty prevented him from doing that, so he took on this stern, steely image. And because of that, it created a rift between him and Tarwak, his son, to the point where he disowned him. So I agree with the old man. I don't think Tarwak's father is necessarily a bad person, but he's very traditional and he's very much dedicated to his position as the chieftain. So this author, Chris, he has a habit of, just running his mouth about things that he knows nothing about. So kind of happy that old man flat out told him, hey, it has nothing to do with you, and there's two sides to every story. And I'm still kind of mad about him going up that mountain. I mean, I know you're trying to get internet access so you can contact people, but that's not worth it. It wasn't worth it because you almost got yourself killed. I knew something bad was going to happen when he decided to go up that mountain. Lucky for him, the worst case of that did not happen. I think there was something else I wanted to say about Chris, but I think I forgot. So maybe in the next video I'll talk more about Chris. But anyway, in the previous videos, like when we first meet Yuka, he goes into the doctor's office. It seemed like they were, well, I didn't pick for Chris to eavesdrop on the conversation, but I decided to pick that choice on my own time, and it seemed like they were kind of close, like good acquaintances, sort of like it. But I figured that they were going out together, and the old man Panak, he confirmed that the two of them were about to get married. So I'm happy for the both of them, both the doctor, Philip, and Yuka getting together and them getting married. Unfortunately, things did not work out between Yuka and Tarwak, but I am happy for Yuka, since that he managed to find somebody else to be with, and that he's about to marry that person. So there's still one more update to do. In fact, the new update came out at the start of this month, so I didn't get to download it just yet. But there is one more video I have to do on Hearthfire before we're finally up to date with the game. And I'll have that out very soon. So I wonder how this game is ultimately going to end. I mean, will Chris and Tarwak be able to stay together, or will Chris end up having to go back home? Because, I want Chris to stay with Tarwak. However, Chris is an American citizen, not a Canadian. I mean, you can't. I don't think it would be possible for him to stay with Tarwak, at least for now, if he's an American and he's in Canada. So that's a big issue. Plus his school, he still got school to go to, the college, and if he decides to stay with Tarwack, then he might have to drop out of college. Plus, I wonder what's going to happen between Chris and his ex-boyfriend, Daryl. Because in that phone call, Daryl still very much cares deeply for Chris, even though they're not dating anymore. He still cares very much for Chris. So what's going to happen between them? Could they possibly get back together, or they just going to have to settle on being very good friends? Or maybe they can be friends with benefits. You got a lot of people who's into that. Friends with benefits. You're two good friends, but you do intimate things with each other. So that's what I'm wondering. All that is what I'm wondering, and it can go a lot of ways. I mean, this game can end up with being different ways. Chris can stay with Tarwack, but may have to drop out of college, or Chris can go back to, well, but again, he could have no choice but to go back home anyway, because he's not a Canadian citizen, he's an American, and he might have to go back home to deal with college, and as well as trying to figure out how he and Daryl will move on, whether they decide to get back together or they decide to be good friends. Because it seems like, despite what Daryl told Chris about him being there for him always, it doesn't seem like that's really going to happen. Life just doesn't always work out the way you want it to. And with him being on the football field, on the football team, I forgot if he was a quarterback or not, but anyway, he's on the football team, and his coach is very homophobic, so he doesn't want to be caught with Chris kissing him, because he could get kicked off the football team because of it, because his coach doesn't like that. So there's still one more update to go, and I'll have that out soon. So in the meantime, thank you all very much for watching. All the information for the games is in the description box below. Bye.